Hi, welcome back to my studio. This is the second part of painting over old paintings. And so the first part, if you watched it, went about 20 minutes, which was pretty serendipitous for me because usually a block in, whether it's over a painting or not, takes me an hour or hour and a half, a couple hours. And this is a 30 by 40. So it was kind of lucky. The first video, it didn't bore you too long, but that was in real time. So that was painted in this was done in 20 minutes. So today we're going to work on it the second session for 15-20 minutes and see how far we take it. Before I do, I've got a few comments I want to make. Kind of get on my soapbox here again a little bit and talk about, I just joined this Facebook and the social media stuff in January. I really resisted it. I'm kind of agoraphobic and kind of keep to myself, but I missed sharing art. And so I'm kind of new to all this stuff. And there's some things I'm noticing on a lot of these art website vlogs and stuff is the way we feel about our artwork and how, it's for people they want to create, but it's a problem. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. Life is full of dichotomies. That's life, up, down, hot, cold, good, bad. Everything has an opposite. And so painting, not painting, really in the aspect of art, there's one big thing that I've talked about a lot and I harp on it a lot, and that's product versus process. Okay? Product versus process. Now what I mean by that again is process is the act of painting. Product is the result of that act. Too many of us focus on product. It's not a good thing, you guys, because the process gets behind and we don't get focused on the right thing and we don't turn out the best work we can turn out. And so process is, it's like, that's why so many people quit painting, I think, because they focus so much on the product. Well, it's not good enough. Or, I'm not good enough. They compare themselves to other artists, which don't ever do that. Compare yourself to yourself. Are you getting better? Are you learning? Are you growing? That's what art's about. It's about process. That's why we make art. So, keep that paramount in your mind. So when I'm thinking about process, me painting over, this has got 3 paintings underneath it. Me painting over 3 paintings, really, honestly, it does not bother me at all. Because I always have the process. I always have that growth. The product is a result of that. So it looks maybe the 4th time the product comes out and it's really good. But if I were to focus on product like I did for the first 25 years of my career, it's very frustrating. I've been painting for 50 years. And for the first 25, I was very product oriented. And it was tough. The paintings were never good enough. All of those kinds of things. I was struggling as an artist and was teaching college a little bit and painting, and it never got into a career. And so I had 2 kids and a wife and obligations. So my wife and I started a graphic arts business. And we ran that for 15 years, and it was pretty successful. We did really good. I was trained as a painter, but here I am working as a graphic designer. But again, keeping your mind open. I was airbrushing T-shirts at car shows, putting 57 Chevys on T-shirts. But I was enjoying the process. I was having a ball. And I realized during this 15-year tenure as Gault Graphics, is what we called our company, I was back into the process again. The product just happened. The process, it was fun. I was having a ball. I didn't miss painting. Eventually, I did miss painting. And so I wanted to go back to painting. So we sold our graphic arts business in Missouri. This was 25 years ago, and moved to Colorado. And I'm living in the mountains of Colorado, living the dream. And I've been painting full-time for the last 25 years, teaching college part-time. I haven't taught for about 10 years now, and that's why I'm doing these, because I miss it. Anyway, focus on process. Then the product evolves. I mean, it happens. And they become better because you're focusing on the right thing. Okay, so looking at these things I'm seeing online, I really want to, because I'm on my soapbox, I really want to talk about some things. Creativity versus technique. Okay, so I see a lot of people hammering Bob Ross, oh, don't do, and then I see a lot of people that just absolutely love Bob Ross. Well, I got to tell you, I love Bob Ross because he is what he is. He's where he is. He's great. He's wonderful for getting people into painting. He's wonderful for getting their feet wet, for showing them that we can all paint, that we're all creative. The problem is where that people get irritated, I think, with Bob Ross is he's about technique. He's giving you technique. Here's how you paint a tree. Here's how you paint water. Here's how you paint a sky. And that's a technique. It's not really learning art. It's learning technique, but it's getting you into art. And it's very creative. And I consider his stuff great for what it is. I love it. I love what he does. I love that he encourages people, as many people as he has. So the reason people get frustrated with Bob is because he is all about technique. And when you get to a point in your growth where, wow, I want to know a little more. I want to do on my own. I want to see my own vision. I don't want to see this guy's vision. These guys are great for getting you into it. What I want to give you is more college level, more academic thinking, more philosophy of painting, the things behind it, to encourage you to do your own stuff and not be intimidated by that. Find your inner child. And another thing I'm seeing online that I want to talk about today. People saying, well, am I an amateur or am I professional? Well, the only time that matters, you guys, is when you're in art competitions where they have criteria and they have categories. When amateurs just begun painting, they've only painted for a year or two. Professional, anybody with a degree or blah, 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 selling paintings, they have that kind of criteria. But for yourself, for your own thoughts, that's a redundant thought. Amateur, professional? Van Gogh really was never considered professional. He was supported by his brother his whole life. I talk about Van Gogh all the time because he's such a dichotomy. Here's Van Gogh, who couldn't give away paintings while he's alive, and one just sold last week for tens of millions of dollars. The painting didn't change. Van Gogh didn't change. Our concept of him changed. The value we placed behind him changed. So that's ethereal. There is no professional amateur. I mean, when you think about it, putting value on artwork that way, it's redundant. Put value on the process, making art, the joy of making art, the way it feels. That's why we make art. So this is how you should approach the studio. Approach it free and open. Be willing to take chances. Use Bob Ross's techniques, but make your own. Paint with a stick, create. Use your finger, I see people talking about palette knife paintings. I can't personally paint with a palette knife. I use a palette knife to clean my palette or to scrape paint off of the painting, but I can't paint with one. I become too technique-y. It doesn't work for me. Other people, my God, they're great with it. Richard Smith, he's an aficionado with the palette knife. So stay open. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to take chances. I got to tell you guys something. The world doesn't give a hoot whether you paint. Nobody cares whether you paint. My wife, I've been married 50 years. I love her dearly. She supported me for 50 years, but she really doesn't care whether I paint. I care whether I paint. I paint for me. This education stuff. I have a master's degree in painting from the University of Missouri. I have a bachelor's degree from a private art college, the Kansas City Art Institute. Very prestigious art college. Did those things make me an artist? They did not. They gave me an education. They made me educated about art. What makes me an artist is making art. So if you're 15 years old and you're making art, you're an artist. If you're 80 years old and you're making art, you're an artist. So Focus on the process. Focus on the joy of painting, and you'll just be really thrilled with your growth. It's the last 25 years for me have been much more enjoyable than the first 25 years because I've got my head on straight. When I was going to the Art Institute, I had to take philosophy courses. And so my professor, Jane Houston, she was a hoot. I loved her. I went up to her one day after class. I was struggling in the class. It was hard. And I said, I don't understand why. I'm a painter. Why do I have to take philosophy? Why do I have to study Kant and Nietzsche and Spinoza and all these guys? I don't get it. Why am I studying philosophers when I'm a painter? And she looked at me very deadpan and said, Michael, you paint what you think. I get it right. You paint what you think. And so that's what all of these videos and our vlogs are about, is helping your thinking, getting your thinking along. I'm not really a how-to guy. I think the video, you watching me paint, is helpful because you kind of see an artist in process. But if you saw the first video in the series, you're going to notice I'm just going to paint. Did you see me walk out of screen a lot? Well, the reason is I'm walking back to look at the painting. And why is that important? That's because I've took the standing to paint. Remember I've talked about that? All paintings have a viewing distance. And so this painting is a 30/40. So the viewing distance traditionally on this painting is about 10, 12 feet. So I'm walking out of frame to look at the painting as I work on it. So that's one thing I'm doing. The other thing is I want to talk about the photograph one more time. And I'm going to bring it up so you can look at it. I'm not a great photographer, as you can tell. Most of us aren't. Most of us are point and shoot. The photograph, using this as a reference for years, you can use this stuff. I don't care what you use as a reference to paint. It's all about the painting. The painting is the primary thing. So this is just a reference. The problem with my photograph is the lights and darks are too extreme. The darks are way too dark. The lights are way too light. Knowing that, I'm just using this as a guide. I'm not going to try and replicate that because it would not make a great painting. So, and I've also changed the composition a little bit. I've moved the horizon line down a little bit to make a better composition. Also, this area to me is a little vague, so I'm going to change that. So you're making art. You're not reproducing things exactly. Even if you're painting plein air, you're making art. So keep that in mind. Okay, so before we start to paint, there's one more thing I'd like to point out. I've seen online where people have said, well, what do you do to paint over an old painting? Well, don't put a layer of white paint over it because you're just adding to the chemistry. You're just adding more layers. Really just take some coarse sandpaper and scuff it up, 100 grit, 150 grit, scuff it up lightly to kind of scuff the surface and just start painting like I did on the original video. Oil paint dries by oxidation. And what that means is exposure to air. And so as you add layers, if you get paint that is more oil paint over less oil paint, then what happened is the way they dry at different rates, and that's what causes the cracking and the issues with adhesion and that kind of stuff. So that's the fat over lean and all that. So really, if you're going to paint over a painting, just scuff it up a little bit and just start painting on it. I really wouldn't recommend adding more and more paint. So anyway, we'll work on this for a little bit and see how far we can get today on this session. And I'm not going to say a whole lot. I'm just going to start to move. So hang in there. I've been using a filbert size 8 for this part of the painting. And now, because I want to do some harder, cleaner edges, I'm going to switch to, this is about the smallest brush I ever use, which is pretty small. It's a 6, and it's an angular sash brush again, like my big one, but the baby. And this is good for creating nice hard edges. And this is, I guess, in essence, you guys, this is my palette knife. Okay, so this would be the second setting on the painting. And after this setting, I'll probably put the photograph away pretty much and let the painting take off on its own. I'm already starting to make some changes in composition, a little bit in the way the lighting is striking it and that kind of stuff, because I'm making artwork. I'm not making that photograph. So stay tuned, and hopefully this will give you some insights on to painting over old paintings. I've done a lot of them, and you can tell. So God bless and take care.